Ace Hardware, man. There's no plan here.
So one of the pain in the asses about working in retail is what you say about it is managers, owners like to find trouble where it ain't. And
Trouble where there ain't no trouble, grief where there ain't no grief.
Yeah.
If things are smooth and running fine, the average decent human being shuts their mouth and thanks God.
Yeah.
Or does namaste, whatever they do.
Tell me about some of the tricks that management does.
I gotta tell you this weird thing. I worked at Morgan's, and Morgan's is about as fucked an operation as you can find. It's absolutely terrible. The management is terrible. The attitude is nasty. The owners are mindless. They know their business, and that's how they're winners. But this one schmuck at one of the owner's kids ran the Ballard store, Morgan's Ballard store, and at the end of the day, at 6 o'clock, when it was 6 o'clock, everybody would stand around with this weird look on their faces, this strange, haunted look, and I would just go up to the time clock and punch out. I just ignored their looks. I knew something was up, but I wasn't gonna play. So that went on for a while, and then as I was leaving one time, somebody said, "Who's gonna get the beer?" And, a plumbing store, there's no ambiance. There's no women. Do I really want to hang out after the stores close and drink with these idiots I've been with all day? The submoronic simps of retail? Jesus, Joseph and Mary, of course not. So I ignored that. So at some point that becomes an evaluation. Mm-hmm. And the boss had hired a bunch of pretty dumb fucks. They were just dumb. They didn't know the business. They didn't know how to. They have no social graces. You have to speak to people. You have to act like everyone's a value, and you give a shit about his P-trap. Who gives a shit about a P-trap? But you have to act like you care about a goddamn P-trap. But in any case, he says, "John, I'm firing a lot of people." And I said, didn't bother me because I was the best salesman in the place. I didn't give a damn. I wasn't worried about it. And he says, when it's 6 o'clock, you leave. I said, well, my shift is over. Why wouldn't I leave? And he says, he didn't want to say, because I'm scamming you for another hour's work free. So he's working the angle in how to say, you leave when I say you leave. You punch out, but you leave when I say you leave. And I wasn't getting it. And then he said, people at this job leave when I say they leave. So I thought, well, unfortunately I have this young son, so I have to kiss this moron's ass. So I say, okay, I'll leave when you say I have to leave. So 6 o'clock comes, I'm standing around, and somebody says, who's getting the beer? Well, the gig was this. You, unspoken rule, you stay a full hour after work free, and this schmuck gives you beer. That's what you do. That was the gig.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I couldn't live with that, so I had to be going.
Yeah.
That was so bizarre. I just, to this day, it mystifies me how they're all standing around in this weird little, shocked way, scared little animals. I mean, you're talking, $14 an hour, an annoying little.
You made $14 an hour?
Most of them didn't.
So what about you were telling me something about the phone calls, like the dummy calls?
Oh yeah, these calls. They would make calls. When I was at Eagle Hardware, which is now Lowe's, they were on your ass all the time. They had these phony shoppers, these fake shoppers that were always evaluating you constantly, and and these phone calls that were always evaluating you. Well, Christ, who can survive that? So I thought I'll just go about my business and live my life. But the thing about the phone calls is they were easy to trace because they were trying to aggravate you. Anybody trying to aggravate me on the phone, and at a point where I'd get aggravated, they'd say, "What's your name?" And I'd give them the manager's name.
Yeah. You were never aggravated by a real customer ever.
Always and forever, many customers. But I really developed a whole lot of ways to annoy them.
Yeah.
You know, passive aggressive. You know, like treat them like idiots, but in such a way, in such a subtle way. You had to do it in a very subtle way, so they thought it could be, but it isn't necessarily so.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily so. So
Give me an example.
I loved this one. This one I love because you say this to 5-year-olds. Go get this, and they're looking around. And you say, "Look at me, look at me. It's over there." That was a thing of beauty because every time they started, pain in the ass person started. Where's this? It's on the lower shelf, and they're looking around like crazy, and they can't find it because they're looking in the wrong place. They say, "Ma'am, look at me."
We could all. It's like from.
Star Wars? Empire Strikes Back?
But
Hibbity.
Indiana Jones.
the movie where Matthew McConaughey says,
Oh, Days of Confused?